We're recording. I am here with the often imitated, never actually completely emulated Kevincho, who does an incredible job at, I think it's fair to say, Kevin, straddling a line that's often difficult, right? Between being a fan, but also sort of not being a journalist. I don't know if that's the right term, but you straddle
Yeah.
this line that to me is so interesting. And we'll get into that. But just first and foremost, how are you? How are things going? Obviously, SKC still alive
Yeah.
somehow, which is
Somehow.
amazing. How you doing?
Good. No, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. And yeah, the vibes are very weird. I don't know if I'm proud that we're here. At the same time, it's just like I've for example, like I talk to my family of are slowly like I'm getting into MLS. We're all learning kind of like together at the same time, even though I've watched way more than them. But at the same time, they've seen a lot of our situations, and now they're like, wait. You guys are in the final like 8 teams in your playoffs. I'm like, don't ask. We're here and I'm vibing. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird feeling right now for me.
No, that's awesome. And I must admit, maybe a pat in the back. And, I saw the Tom Bogerts of the world, the
Uh-huh.
Doyles, the Andrew Weavies, whatever, all putting SKC very, 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 very down low
Uh-huh.
in terms of the predictions. I was actually very impressed that they were able to keep the roster the way they did year over year, which is typically hard in this league, I think. I think
Yeah.
there are a few teams that are able to do it. I know on my end, Philadelphia, one of them, right, keeping 92% of the minutes. But then when I look at the SKC roster and I saw all the names that were coming back, I thought that's tough to do. So
Yeah.
there's consistency. It's just, can they be consistently good enough to make the playoffs? And they did it.
Yeah. Dude. I mean, that's kind of been the weird back and forth with SKC fans because players one of the jokes is like, yeah, we've had some of the same players since like 2011, 2012, some even earlier, which is kind of not a good sign. But at the same time, it's like, well, it's weird because like a lot of the players seem like they're very loyal. They've gone through, really tough seasons. And even after a COVID season, like 2021 was a weird year and 2022 was a nightmare. And then this year started so bad. So like somehow we have this retention, which is good. Maybe it's Peter, maybe it's a lot of factors, but I think not a lot of people would think a Midwest team is good at holding on players. Usually you would think maybe players want to try something new. It's a bit boring out here, to be honest. But like, look, I'm not complaining. I think the big thing is like if we keep the good players, I think Allen was huge, re-signing him. Um, then some of the other players, you're kind of like, what are we gonna do with Zusi? What are we gonna do with Roger? I don't know. We're gonna see. I have a feeling at the end of this season, I don't know nothing more than anyone, but in my opinion, I could see like a thank you for your time. Have fun. Let these two legends go, type of vibe. But I don't know. No idea with sporting.
Hopefully more ceremoniously than what the Philadelphia Union in terms of, we talk about Bogert before we
Mm,
started recording and him coming up now, right? In terms of what's happening or potentially happening or reportedly happening with
right.
someone like Alejandro Bedoya, right? Where a 20-second conversation of, yeah, the future's in your hands. You're not going to be here next year. And, him being kind of like, wait, I thought I was going to retire here,
Yeah,
right? So,
I don't know. This like that vibe I'm getting, it's almost like baseball-esque where it's like, "Hey buddy, you've been traded today. Have a good one." Or, "Hey buddy, you're done here." And it's like, "Dang, I get it. I get like the business side, but some of these guys are like iconic. Some of these players, like you mentioned, like I think of Philly, I think of like three different names or Sporting. Some people think of Zeus, all these. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it's something nice. They haven't been playing like at all. And of course, now that we're in the playoffs, they're not going to be playing. Trust me, unless it's just some crazy do or die situation. But yeah, you just want them to say goodbye in a good way. And Zusi was my favorite player in MLS, so it's just kind of a weird spot to see like a legend kind of retire out, slowly.
all right, so let me ask you about the content that you make. And again, I know I sort of tiptoed into it
Hmm.
in terms of you straddling this really interesting, like I don't know, I don't want to call it niche. I don't want to
Uh,
like this really interesting spot in terms of what you create. When did you start feeling like significant recognition for the content you've been putting out, right? Especially giving the length of time that you've been involved doing it. And I think a big turning point for you, or at least in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, was when Jimmy Conrad sort of crashed your life.
Yeah, I think I started feel okay. So I've been in like the content game for like 9 years and stayed very far away from football, from soccer in general, just because I always knew since I was younger I had this side of like just so obsessed. I knew that if I started, I'm just gonna go way too insane about it. So I just kind of been outside. I freelance edit for others. I did my own like content on separate channels, not talking about football. And then once I started the content with MLS, I didn't really think anything was going to happen up until I started getting DMs from players. And actually, I don't even remember. I don't even think the first player was a Sporting player. I think it was
Wow.
I really can't remember which one was I think it was an Austin player reached out and just said, hey, keep it, keep up the great work, you kill me. Or one of the players on another team said that he puts me on while he's training or while he's running on the treadmill or something, and I was like, are you like, what? I think that was like, when that happened, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, then slowly things started going in the direction of like more and more recognition, or like a silent recognition. I'll get like, random pundits or whatever just DM me and say, hey, love your stuff, keep going, stuff like that. And then once Jimmy came along, it was like totally different, because me and Jimmy, somehow we are so similar, and it's eerie because even my wife says it.
The
uh
dude's a vibe.
he is a character, Jimmy, and it is not fake. It is him. That's just how he is, and he's very intense too. So once he reached out and was like, he found out that I freelance edited and he needed editors, and we started kind of working back and forth. We worked through the World Cup, and that was like the men's World Cup first, and it was the most amazing thing. While I'm also dealing with like Argentina, all these emotions, it was like an insane grind. The dude was like, as you can imagine, he was working like 12, 13 hours straight, working for Fox Sports at the World Cup. I was watching games, streaming games, editing for him, doing my full-time job. It was a nightmare. He was texting me at like 3 in the morning, for edits.
Qatar
And
time.
yeah, and it was insane. And after that happened, I was like, oh my God, I just went through hell, and we were fine. And then things started going, and we started working with TST, and then the Women's World Cup, and then things started you going from there. So it's been a weird, crazy jump, but it's also like, it's awesome at the same time. I'm like, man, where was this for like years? I did all this other content, nothing ever happened. It's just like this weird thing that I thought nobody would be watching me watch Major League Soccer. I don't know. It's just, you never know, I guess, is the moral of the story.
It feels like it's a timing thing, right? And I think we can
Yeah.
I want to personally put a pin on TST because I have some more questions about that. Not super in
Yeah.
depth, but just, I think that was honestly, I think a huge breakout point for you, right? And
Yeah.
sure, you've been doing the YouTube live or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
the live streams, reacting and whatnot. But I feel like TST was almost like a gigantic turning point for you.
Yeah.
So I'm a married man. You're a married man.
Yeah.
I think I remember from watching your conversation with the Cooligans, you met your wife in New York, and uh, fast forward everything that happened, whatever, you guys got married. I'm intrigued. The work that you do takes a lot of time.
Mhm.
The content that you create takes a lot of effort. How, and excuse me if it's too personal, but
Oh yeah.
how does she deal with it? How has this entire thing, how has it gone with her? How
Yeah.
does she feel? How has that worked out? Because I'm really interested myself, because I stare at this computer far too often, or far, looking at tweets or making sure I'm not missing a booger bomb,
Right.
or DMs from now, like much like you're saying, players sending me DMs, especially the Spanish speaking ones that are like feeling more comfortable finally having
Yeah.
someone to talk to. Um, Agents as well, surprisingly coming out to like, talk to me or tell me things. How has your wife sort of coped with the amount of time that this takes?
I think because, okay, so like I mentioned that I've been doing, so I have a full-time like corporate job, very boring, and then all this other stuff on the side. And what we learned over these last 8, 9 years has been basically, what I do is like every week, like I know I'm gonna have a stream on the weekend now. So it's like, okay, 2 hours of my weekend is blocked. Nobody bother me. That's what I'm doing. And then I will sneak in, like I wake up 4 in the morning. I'll edit the highlights, post them, and I have everything basically time, or what's why can't I think of this word in English? It basically timestamp to where I'm like uploading it automatically at this time, and then I'm gonna I know like at 11 o'clock
Wow.
this highlight gets posted. So I do all that at the same time. Certain points of my day, like after 6 o'clock, that's why when I'm trying to do interviews or whatever, I just tell people, listen, I'm dead. Okay, do not bother me. I do not exist
Yeah.
at these hours. And it's been like a mix of that, and which was a lot, like years of like trying to balance all this. I'm at the point where I'm gonna start dropping clients finally, and then hopefully finally get away from this job, this corporate job, and then do it for full time or whatnot. But it's been a weird mix of that. But it's a lot of like learning. Okay, this takes me at least 3 hours, and what I learned over time was I know how long it takes me to do pretty much everything. So I know if I start an edit at 2, I'm gonna be done at maybe 3 o'clock. All right, and I know that's what's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of that, and the great thing is she has a set schedule, weekends off. So it's like a really good mix of like I know when she's working, I know when she's free, and we find some time in there to be with each other and whatnot. But yeah, it's not easy. That's why like with kids is not happening. Well, at least I'm not planning for that to
Whoa,
happen.
easy,
Yeah.
easy,
I'm
easy.
just saying. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to curse myself, but like at the same time, I know how hard it is. I have
Yeah.
friends that have kids, and like you mentioned earlier before this, it is like it's a lot. And I know if that gets included, I'm done. It's over. And really, with the streams right now, it's great that I get to stream and then I end stream and I don't even think about it till the morning, and then I upload it, and then maybe I have like a week to do my own stuff. It's kind of great. Someone like Tom or like you or whatever, people like that, it's much harder because the news doesn't stop at 5 p.m. Or like things don't, you know, nothing. No, it's not dead silent in sports world after a certain time. So I would just say good luck with that. But it is a thing where you will definitely start getting used to a certain how long does it take you to write up a piece, or how long does it take you to interview someone, and then maybe some post if you have to do any editing or whatever you have to do. You'll start getting it down like a machine and just keep going. The thing that sucks is like when you want to switch things up, it's hard because now you're like crap. Now I got to redo my whole schedule and whatnot. And another thing, just so you know, which I learned the hard way, is like now I just have to like tell people no way more than I ever wanted to for things, which is so awkward. But it's not like, oh, I'm bigger than you, I don't need this. It's more like, hey dude, I am so slammed. If you want to interview in like 2 months, I got you, bro, type of deal. But that's just how I've been dealing with it, and especially these last 2 years.
It's really interesting, right? Because it's a push and pull, right? You want to get your content done, and it sounds like you've gotten down to almost like an art, right? In terms
Yeah.
of wanting to spend time with your significant other, as well as making sure that your content is thriving and lively and remains as entertaining as it is. Because having told a few people that I was saying that sitting down with you, they're like, how did you connect with him? It's like, I don't know. We just DM and call each other
Yeah.
dumb names in Spanish, and it works out that way. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think that many people don't realize that, right? They take you for what you put out in terms of they don't think about the back end of it all, or maybe
Right.
what's behind a curtain, right? Of like your personal life
I think
and
that's the biggest thing. Like a lot of people, like I've even had run-ins where people would just get upset. They're like, "Hey, I would like to interview you. Why are you talking to these people?" Or, it seems like it's like, dude, I don't stream on a Sunday and I have all week to do nothing and I'm streaming the next Sunday. It's not nothing like that. And honestly, I don't even know what I'm going to do next year. I don't know if I will continue. I don't know if I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm like, I think I did it and I'm done.
this is not
But
an announcement, by the way, everybody. This is not an announcement.
no, it's not an announcement yet, but I'm pretty much there. I mean, I've talked to like Jimmy and other people about this, and Jimmy's super. Jimmy Conrad is like very understanding because he's been through this so many times, and he's different because he's an ex-player and then turned content creator whatnot. But yeah, so I'm like on that end too. I don't know if it's MLS. I don't know if it's like crazy scheduling, but because I'm very small, but for some reason all over the place on like MLS world, it seems like I'm more accessible than I am. But it's like no offense anyway. There's like no hard feelings. It's just insane right now.
Yeah, and I think that's again often what people forget, right? They see the work that you put out, or maybe the work that I put out, and they appreciate it, and they're suggesting people like go interview this guy or
Yeah, yeah,
go cover this, or do one more game. And it's just like I don't know if you remember Leagues Cup, bud, but like
man.
that was a month of like I think we had 7 games in like 2 weeks or a 3 week period, which just like I live 45 minutes away from the stadium. So like the
Mm,
back and forth, never mind. I travel for work. I'm a professional fundraiser for a college. So like
yeah,
being in DC, coming back, going to a game, coming back, going to DC again for work, and being able to catch another game with the folks over at DC United, coming back, going to another. It was just
yeah,
madness. So like people don't
insane.
realize that like the insanity behind it all. But I think this is a great transition because your brand, I'm gonna call it that. It feels a little weird to like out loud say your brand because reactions
Right.
are reactions, right? I'm not
Yeah.
underplaying it, but like have you ever considered expanding your content or maybe into a two-person type of brand? Because that
Yeah.
may alleviate some of that pain, but I also know that that might take away from what you make. I don't know if that's something you ever consider. Not that I'm asking you. This is someone that
Yeah.
this is something that someone suggested asking you in terms of like what's next for Kevincho to or Kevin, whatever,
Yeah.
to make this work for him so it remains. I don't want to say relevant either because I think your stuff is sort of timeless, right? Like I can watch games that you covered from the beginning of the season today and still have a hell of a time. So like, have you
Right.
ever considered like what
Yeah,
have you considered?
the goal is, I mean, the dream would be like having an actual studio where I have a crew of morons, and we're all, hanging out watching games or even I don't know, like I
Is
think
that the title? Would
yeah,
you say
yeah, that's
a group of
that
boludos?
is, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I look, we can workshop it a little bit. I think we're already there. But no, I don't have like it's a set thing where I'm like, okay, it would be so great to have multiple people. And I did when I did my personal stuff on my other channel, I would have my brother in or like my mom or my wife. I had friends on the channel. I had a lot of that stuff on my main channel, main in quotes channel. But yeah, that's the goal. Like that would be great. I don't know exactly if we would be covering MLS. I don't know that vibe yet. I'm still thinking, but I also am obsessed with all sports. I'm like the first one in my family because like in Argentina, like no one cares about anything other than soccer and maybe rugby, and then I have like some obsessed basketball
I was gonna say
family members.
basketball.
Yeah, basketball is like another one, huge. But like I was like the first one in my family to like really get into football. And now my mom is like obsessed and the NBA and college basketball and all this stuff. And I enjoy it all. And I'm very passionate about them all. I just like grew up liking these teams and hating other teams. I legitimately hate the state of Missouri, which is a very weird thing to say, like supporting Kansas. I hate Missouri. I hate all their sports teams. I hate their fans. I hate it all. So the great thing about me, especially recently with this St. Louis stuff, is like their dig is like calling us Kansas. That is, I love that. Keep it up. Keep calling us Kansas. It's like the best flex ever. And it's like that stuff I love. So I don't know, one day to have a crew of people, watching basketball, talking about other sports, because I love being able to do that. And another thing is like I've been learning about Team USA. I don't think a single person in my family knows a single Team USA player name or ever. And so like now I'm like learning because I'm watching MLS, I'm learning about Team USA and I'm learning about the history of this country of like in sports and stuff like that, which is great. And I would like to keep that going. So maybe doing in-depth videos about certain players or teams. That's the goal. But right now it's just so insane. And this season has been so long. And I think also because of the World Cup and like all these, it just feels like 2 years of nonstop, football, just nonstop high pressure that I'm just I'm waiting for the season to finally end for me and just relaxing a little bit and kind of goofing
A
off.
lot of
And
us, a lot of us
yeah,
are too, Kevin.
I oh for sure. I definitely have DMs from a couple of the MLS crew people that are just so over it, and I get it. So yeah, it's going to be fun. But that's the dream is to have a crew of people for sure.
So that's another like great transition, right? Because this seems like the longest MLS season ever, and in fact, it is.
Yeah,
Even to the point where like I've talked to folks who know the CBA inside and out, and sort of walk me through. And it's like, yeah, the MLS is literally pushing this to like the very, very top of what they can get away with without breaking the CBA rule and having to
Right.
go into, mediation or finding an in between with the players.
Hmm.
Um, Being a solo creator during this, how do you, I mean, you sort of touched on it, but like, I can't imagine that this season has been easy for your health, right? In terms of
Yeah.
like content creation and, yeah,
Yeah.
again, like throwing Leagues Cup and everything.
All of this has been like, it's so weird because people are like, "Oh, how's the MLS season? I have to like actually step back as someone who's making, because maybe it's people who aren't making any content or just enjoying the league, maybe are loving this. Maybe they're like, man, this is fun. This is more games. I can be excited for something every weekend or whatever it is. But on the content side, it's like if you don't talk about this, everyone's asking you about it, then you basically have to talk about it until, just to get them off your back. Or, I even when they did this best of three nonsense round one, I did not stream that first game because it was like at 9 p.m. my time. It was on a Sunday night. It was the first game of potentially three. And I really could care less. That I don't care that much to do three 3-hour
Yeah.
streams, the same two teams playing each other. And I was picturing us getting murdered for two games. But yeah, I don't know. It's been really tough. And yeah, I've had moments, halfway through the season. I just told my wife, I'm like, I'm done. I can't, like, some of these, there's things where I'm going to say this because I'm at this point already. This league is new, obviously, in the sense of like, if you look at other leagues,
Of course.
the fans, there's constant fans that are just new to the sport in general, which is amazing. That's the idea. That's what we want as, American sports fans for soccer. We want that. We want all these new people. But what that brings is some of the most insane takes. I could not imagine some of the things people are. I mean, when Sporting won against St. Louis, Sporting Kansas City kicked out St. Louis, which is insane to say after this season, people were angry that Sporting fans were celebrating. People were calling people. I literally saw someone say they are acting like sore winners. Listen to me right now, some new MLS fans. You trust me. If you go anywhere in the world and someone beats your team, this is very chill. All right.
Yeah.
I have been in situations where I'm like, oh, we're gonna die here today. They're going to kill us. Like there's been situations where I'm like, oh my, I can't go to work for a week or whatever type of feelings.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's
people don't
something.
realize that, Kevin, right? Like the
Yeah.
the whole South American soccer game. Having grown up in Bolivia and obviously
Yeah.
your love for Argentina. I'm not sure if you were born there or not, I
Yes.
must
Born
admit.
there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been to many matches where like I still can't wrap my head around the whole idea of like what's it called? Like assigned seating where like,
Yeah.
in South America, you're just buying, an open seat somewhere and you're
Yes.
just going for it.
You
So,
you you're either
it's
in or not. Like, are you in the stadium or you're not in the stadium? That's it. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So to me, it's just kind of like, yeah, you guys have no idea what it's like. We're like, if you're a visiting fan at an away match and your team wins, it's like, good luck getting back to your car, or your car still having, side view
You have a
mirrors.
car? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think, look, and even with some creators, like there are many creators that are also coming up just as that experience. Like I've talked to many that are like, I never watched anything out in Europe. I never watched anything in South America or in Asia or in Africa. So this is their first experience. So it is so interesting to see these people, talk about, what bothers them or what they like about the league or whatever, because they have like this whole new, viewpoint that I couldn't even imagine. So it's not all bad. It's not like just nobody knows what they're talking about, but it's so different that when, people put opinions or maybe they will, they'll comment certain things. It's for a long season like we had this year. It's hitting me hard.
It's
I'm like,
madness.
yeah, for sure.
So let me ask you this, and I sort of, I want to be mindful of your time. I think we're already
Yeah,
talked
you're
for like
good.
30 minutes.
You're fine.
And I say this as someone who doesn't pay for Zoom Pro. So yeah, I have
Oh,
like
oh,
10
you're
minutes
good.
left.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask you this, right? What is your relationship like with the PR team at SKC and the current, right? Because I
Uh,
know I read and saw, I think, about the cease and desist. I also know that it's like two completely different organizations in the way
yeah,
that they treat you and the way that, that all goes along. And you straddle this really fine line of someone who provides some really great free advertisement, but you also have like a combative almost like
yeah,
relationship with them.
yeah.
What is this like? Like how does this bode for your content and your feelings towards it all?
I think sporting is yeah, I don't know how what the vibes are with sporting. It's been pretty much this entire season. There's zero contact between us. I think the very beginning of the season they sent me a kit which was shocking based off of how things ended last year. And yeah, I had a very tough time even I don't know. It's like a weird thing. Like if I did this for River Plate, I wouldn't expect anything from River Plate, and I don't expect anything from Sporting. I want to think of them as like the same thing, even though they're so different in size. But like I just go, hey, if River wouldn't do it, why do I expect them to do it? Fine. The current, on the other hand, are so like it's almost like I don't want to say this because it sounds so cringe, but it's like they get it. Like it's not just like not just NWSL teams, but there's some MLS teams that are just better at kind of dealing with creators or kind of playing with them or inviting them to certain things and they can see like all right this guy might say some not so nice things but we're going to invite him to this event or whatever a big shout out to a lot of the East Coast teams are good at that. LA, especially LAFC, is this last season before, have been great at just understanding. Oh my goodness, there's so many of these creators that are just kind of boosting us up. We don't have to pay them a dime, just hey, we'll kind of support you silently. Here you go, or even publicly, and that's it. That's all they have to do. It doesn't mean that they have to support everything you say, and I don't know if that's the weird thing at sporting. Like when I go, like I haven't gone to a game this year on purpose. But with the current, it's like a whole different vibe. For example, we had I mean, they reach out to you personally. They talk to you personally. They want you to be and even if I'm not very excited, like this season did not go well with the current. They seem like they were motivated. They had this plan on their future. They were grabbing draft picks. All this stuff. Um, hold on, let me. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. What happened? What happened?
Oh,
We're good.
okay. No, it just gave me a warning. I wasn't sure if we ran out
No,
of
you're good.
time.
You're
Okay,
good.
okay.
Carry on. So sorry.
So no, you're good. So basically, yeah, we got to, so with the current, they're just so good at like interacting with you, and they're making sure like, hey, we know that maybe you're not going to be too happy at times or whatever, but we support what you're doing, and they just kind of leave it at that. And they've invited me to do certain things and or even talk to certain players or people or whatever, and it's great. I think Sporting, on the other hand, are much more I don't know, old school American MLS. I don't know how to explain it, but they give off a different vibe. I love the team. I love the players. I'm not a big fan of how they interact, but I know I don't have fans there, but which is fine. I think the biggest thing is that people don't know. There was a point of this season where again they looked we have injuries. I'm not an idiot. I understand we had injuries, but there was a point where players were making some of the most insane mistakes I've never I used to assistant coach my younger brother, and
It's
there were
hard to
things
watch, man.
I mean, I used to remember telling them like, "Hey, make sure you don't when you need to clear it, don't clear it in the center of the box." So you learn that when you're 6. And professional grown players, some who have played alongside legends, okay, are making some of the worst mistakes. And then on top of that, the club and it just seemed like everything was bland and it was boring, and it seemed like socials were just not fun. It just wasn't fun at all. And I would even say now they're winning, and it's so awesome that they turned it around, and it's great. But it's like also a weird taste in my mouth, and I'm like, okay, we're still not like shaking things up. Things are not interesting. We were literally dragged for like 4 months straight, and now we could flex, and we're not flexing. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Come on, like this is for the culture. This is something we're gonna remember. We knocked out this team that's been a pain in our ass for this whole season. this was the time we were supposed to flex. I don't know. I think in the future, hopefully, I can get out to a game again, and that'd be great. I don't know what the vibes are inside sporting land, but I definitely have buddies in there. I have some friends like who write for the team, or people that photographers and stuff like that that are super supportive and really really nice with me, and I'm same with them. But I am very interested to see what happens next season if there is one.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I think in Philadelphia, I've been very fortunate to now covering the team for a year and a half and
Yeah.
really, sinking my teeth this year in terms of, maybe Leagues Cup being the point in the season where like, and I kid you not, Kevin, dude,
Mm,
being in that press room with Mexican teams and literally being the only person that can communicate with the coach was
that's
just kind
unreal.
of like, it was just like, this is incredible. Like I'm
Yeah.
getting some incredible like opportunities that no one else can because they're
Yeah.
all, very kind, most of them, but
Right.
very white
Yes.
folks that,
Yeah.
don't know a second language. So I've been very fortunate in terms of working with I think a wonderful PR department in Philadelphia. I
Yeah.
don't say that because they gave me access, but they do.
No, yeah, you guys are great. And on not only PR, your socials are good. You guys,
Mhm.
I mean, I've had DM, I'm not gonna say I have 4 different clubs that DM me throughout this year, and they all have DM me pretty much the same verbiage saying, "Hey, love your stuff," like admins of the club. So it's literally like, this is not an example, but let me just say, New York City FC's admin, their person, DM me said, "Love your stuff. Why isn't Sporting using you or whatever?" I have
Yeah.
a club, and I'm not gonna say which one, but I had a club that said, "Hey, next year, why don't you just hop over here if no one's gonna use you?" That's insane to me. But so it's not like an MLS thing. I know a lot of people were the beginning of the year, people were like, "See, MLS doesn't care about creators." That's not true because there have been even MLS admins reaching out saying very nice things. So it's just some clubs. It's not all clubs. Your club is very good at it. I love Phillies. As soon as like if we lose, I was scared. I think they even I don't know if I remember if it was Philly, but one of those East Coast teams dragged me a little bit after they beat Sporting.
Probably,
That
yeah.
was, I was like, all right, they got me, that's fair, whatever, and then move on. And it's a nice thing, and I wish they do that with more people, or I don't know. I mean, maybe next year we'll see some changes with stuff like that.
I must admit, I think that the best piece of content to ever come out of Philadelphia was when the Union beat Nashville in that penalty shootout last
Yeah.
year or the year before, I can remember, and they did that Sesame Street video with the letter of
Yes.
the day, and it was L, and
Yes.
it was I couldn't stop laughing, and I
It's so
actually like
awesome.
it was one of those like I got to share with everybody whether you like the Union or not, or you like soccer, football, whatever
Yeah.
or not, you're gonna watch it, and so it was just but that's
Yeah.
so interesting, Kevin, right? In terms of like teams across the league being interested in leveraging your style and your skills, which again, this is another great segue. Uh, Many others have tried to emulate your content style, yet yours remains so unique. And I think a lot of that has to do with who you are, how expressive you are, your uh I love it. Your Steve
Thanks.
Buscemi looks, right? Your
Right.
your
Yeah.
your personality, who you actually are as a person. In your opinion, what are the elements that have made your content stand out more than others and attempt similar things? Because I think, and I say this with a lot of passion and love for what you do, because I enjoy it and you make it what it is, but reacting to stuff is not hard, but it's
Yeah.
also difficult, if that makes sense. What is making your shit so unique?
I think I got very lucky with just honestly my background, because if I grew up a certain way where I like, for example, if I started picking up this game maybe later in life, or maybe not being open to all these different cultures, I might be a completely different person. Like my dad met my mom in Argentina, and my dad is American. He's a New Yorker down there. So already New Yorkers are one level, and I could say this, one level of obnoxious, right? And they got
Yeah.
their own thing. And then Argentinians famously are also that way. So it was like a weird mesh, because like my dad has his obsessions, my mom has their obsessions. Then I came here, and as I'm like picking up my own thing, it feels like everything's do or die. And I don't know if that's probably not a good thing, honestly, because I just feel sick during games. But it is so it just comes out naturally. Now I will say though, there are moments. So there are people that see me only from the highlights, and they're not, watching the 2-3 hours on stream. And obviously, those are the best moments. There are plenty of minutes, okay, where I'm just sitting just in absolute pain and agony, especially with this one of these teams that I
Yeah,
watch. And
especially the one team in light blue, right?
yes, and that's where I think I just get super lucky. Now, I think it's possible. So I don't know, last right before the season started, I was getting DMs about, setting up backgrounds and technical questions and stuff. And it was people from all over the league, which was the coolest feeling ever. That people were just like, I want to do it too. I didn't invent anything, but it was cool to see more MLS people do it. I just think everyone, if they just find their own weird little twist, it's just it will work for everyone. Like you said, it's not hard. It's not hard to react. The biggest thing is really just like post production. You can react like amazingly and have like the best character ever and whatnot. And then by the time it's your stream's done and you're ready to upload, some people choose like the most insane things. Or, and I'm gonna say this with peace and love, some people do it in the most insane way where they don't watch the game live, but then look back and only watch like the highlights that are posted on social media or whatever.
That's
And
bananas.
and they don't, make it clear that like, hey, I missed the game. I'm gonna watch the highlight, and they're just, fake reacting. And that I honestly feel like people can tell. Like, even if you don't say it, I feel like people could, because in that moment you're watching something shocking or something that makes you so angry or whatever. It's so hard to replicate it. You see something in that moment, maybe later if you watch it at home and then 2 hours later you make an upload, it might not hit the same. I don't think. So like there's like weird stuff like that. On top of that, there's also people where I think there's a very fine line of like dealing with chat, making sure you're not saying anything like, I will never go after a person or after a player. Some people are very unhinged, which is, their own.
Yeah, some people are ruthless, man. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
some of the highlights I watch
yeah,
of folks who react to some soccer games, and I think most of them are European, to be completely fair. So
right.
that's a different level of unhinged, especially the ones that put fucking beans on top of toast. So that's a
Yes, for sure.
completely different level.
Specifically them.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, this is a different level. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I can't fathom what you're describing in terms of like, I missed the game, so I'm just gonna pretend like I watched it all and just
Yeah.
react like for 45 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes.
Exactly. It shocked me. I've had a couple DMs, people saying like, "Hey, I'm gonna upload this. I didn't watch it live, but look, and it's the exact same layout and format and the way they do it's the same. But if it's not live, like, dude, what am I watch? I can watch anyone watch a video, like that's fine, like whatever. But there's a fine line with that. And then the other one is like with chat, there you're gonna get people. I've been so lucky that I've been doing this type of stuff for years that yeah, there's gonna be a couple people that'll come in my chat and like they're gonna get me on edge, and you gotta make sure you cool off or you block them or whatever you need to do. And some people are just better or worse at that than others. So I think that's a big one too. I saw many creators on TikTok watching highlights of others that are just like going after their chat, which is insane. And it just immediately that's just how you lose followers. You also just look like an ass for no
Yeah.
reason.
No, I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, I was invited to the media game or media day for the Philadelphia Union somehow, right? I have such a small
Uh-huh.
like following, but I think
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
the content I provided in terms of like, bringing Spanish speaking players to the forefront and taking the time, and you probably can attest how time consuming it is to
Mm.
take Spanish, the Spanish language, translate it to English,
Yes.
make it make sense, and then also slap it as subtitles. And I think the union have appreciated that. But what I'm getting at is being invited to that media game. I wasn't able to make it. I was actually out in Arizona, like 5 minutes away from when where the U.S. men's national under 23 was
Yeah.
training. So far, far away from Philadelphia. But my understanding is, and this is maybe like a subculture. I'm a different age. I'm 32, almost 32, 33.
Yeah.
I did not know that there's such a vibrant TikTok MLS
Yeah.
going, because my understanding is that there were like 3 or 4 Philadelphia Union TikTokers, and I'm thinking to myself, I've never watched the damn thing these people have put out, but I guess that's something.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
it's I mean, last year I jumped on like MLS content halfway through the season, and there was like almost no one, or very, I don't know. I never ran into anyone on TikTok, and then as soon as the off season happened, boom, an explosion. Even I don't know, like I at first I thought it was like a messy thing. I think this was even before all of this. It was insane how many people were popping up. There's like 10 different, Salt Lake accounts, and there's a bunch of like well, obviously now Inter Miami, but New York. Like everyone has so many different accounts that I don't think we're gonna see that dip anymore. I think there's just gonna be more and more, and we're gonna have, like two different versions. You're gonna have the podcasters, then you have maybe the watch along people, and then we're gonna have like the bloggers. And I think that's a great thing, because if we copy, this is basically copying other leagues. I know there's a billion River Plate, us out there, and I
Yeah.
don't know a huge percentage of them. But yeah, it's a thing. Very weird too, because sometimes, especially if you are, open about supporting one club, your club loses, you're gonna get like 30 or 40 of them, flying in your DMs or whatever, which is just part of the thing. So I think it's a good thing, and it's gonna be really fun the more we get, and then there's gonna be a point where the ones that stick is just the people, maybe they resonate with this guy better, or this girl better, and then we're gonna have like a weird trickle effect. But yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be like insane. I feel like next season for sure.
I'm intrigued. You sort of touched on this in terms of a couple of ways in what's coming in 2025 for sure with Copa America. Or is it no next year, 2024? I
Yeah,
think it's Copa
24.
America. Then 2025, and I'm starting to think, and I don't think you have to be a genius to realize this, but with Philadelphia being one of the host cities for 2026, I would think that 2024 Copa America, then 2025 being the Club World Cup,
Yep,
and then 2026 the World Cup. I think Philadelphia will have something to do with all three of those, just
oh yeah,
to see, maybe dress rehearsals in a way. So I'm excited to
yeah.
be involved in that way, but also interested to hear from you, and maybe I'm getting a vibe here too as a content creator myself, and maybe content creator that maybe again straddles journalist slash, putting stuff out that's fun but also informational, very different than what you put out, which again, that's not to undermine what you do, but still showing a lot of respect. Do you get a vibe from, or do you know, or are in touch with any of the others, the actual journalists who maybe think of your stuff as a distraction more than anything, or is that something that you guys don't feel over there? Because I think there might be I think that's something that happens across different teams.
Yeah, I mean, I've like I said earlier, that I have some buddies that work around the club, some that don't work for the club, but they straight up work for like, newspapers in Kansas City, that are just covering the team. And I personally have only heard good things. Here's the thing that has shocked me from when I started doing content is, and I'm gonna be honest, they let pretty much anyone in these damn rooms. I
Yeah.
think pre-Messi especially, it's been like when I showed up, like I got invited to a training and I was like, wow, this was amazing, because it was like a player DM me and he DM'd his people, and then they got me to get to go out, which was so nice. But then I went to a media day just with all these people pulling up, and it
Yep.
was like people would come up to me and be like, yeah, that guy, he doesn't write about sporting. He just literally shows up every year. And I'm like, what? I mean, again, I try to copy, or I try to think about things in the sense of like what I know with Rio or whatever, or South American leagues, and that would never happen. Do you know how hard it would be to be a, someone working working within the club but not for the club? It's difficult. It's not easy. So I think, yeah, the weird sense of maybe some people are not fans, or just think it's a distraction, which is fine, but like 99% of these people are just content creators. They're just freelance, writers. They're just people that are talking about the team because they want to, and the teams are like, well, no one else is talking about them. Let them in. I'm sure, I am 100% sure that next year, and as we keep going, this is good. They're going to be tightening everything up. They're not going to let little Kevinchos in the little, media rooms. They're not going to let this guy or this girl in just because they've been doing it forever. if we're trying to be as serious as possible, then yeah. So if someone, said, this Kevin guy is a distraction, listen, that's fine. I mean, you're doing the same thing. You're writing, you're saying all this stuff. Now it's a different format. I think when people do blogs or whatever, it's you can kind. I feel like you can get away with less. It's just things just seems too set in stone. Or it's like a video, people think, oh, he's just goofing. He's not really upset.
It's archaic, right? It's an
Yeah,
archaic feeling towards the different, and what I'm hearing across the league is, like if you're making video or you're just posting on news on social media, etc., and you're not doing it for an outlet, you're not a Tom Bogert writing for the
right.
Athletic, but you write stuff, or you honestly just take news and whatever, aggregate it, etc., in a the correct way, not just being an aggregating machine.
Hmm.
You're sort of looked down upon a little bit
Yeah,
by the traditional print media per se, which to me is interesting, because it's not like we're vying for the same eyes. I think they're completely different in a way. And if anything, I would argue that traditional media has failed to adapt in a way, right?
yeah.
I mean, I personally am a 32-year-old man. Kevin, I don't know how old you are, but like
25.
25. Okay. You're not going out and subscribing to your local newspaper, are you?
No.
Right. And honestly, I get my news, especially, with the writers, and I support some of them where I can and it makes sense. But like, I work for academia. So like those
Yeah,
logins work.
yeah. And
So
that makes
to
sense.
me, it's kind of like, I feel like you failed to adapt. So I'm coming in because there's a huge gap here, and I think that's where, like, I hope that there's a better relationship in the future.
There's plenty of I mean, there's so many I know for a fact, like years ago, I didn't really know that much about sporting because yeah, it was like hard to like read about it. Maybe I just look up something online, like what's going on, and then I see maybe an article from the Kansas City Star or something, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess they're talking about him. But yeah, it's been changing so fast, and now like yeah, everyone's talking about teams now. It's so much easier to get information. I go straight to the sources or whatever because I don't want paywall. Like, no offense, I'm sorry to everyone that has to.
Dude, you don't have to apologize, because it's crazy, right? Like the ones that
Yeah,
I've supported where I've actually had to take my dollars back, it's like, why do you have a paywall, but then you're slapping me with 15 ads as I'm scrolling along, where it's just
yes.
like, that
I
is
paid
banana.
you. I gave you the money, dude. Like, I don't need you need more money. Like, God. Yeah, I agree. That's our generation will be killing it. I know that a lot of the older heads are like, don't say that. It's gonna be look, no offense, okay, but there's gonna be a point I feel like in the future here, pretty recent future or soon future, that people are not like this stuff is gonna be harder to. It's gonna be harder to get to the Kansas City Star or maybe even the Athletic or whatever because like people are just seeing it so fast. Some dork on Twitter is just gonna tweet it, dork as in me. Oh, he's just gonna tweet. Oh man, this player just got cut. Wow, this player, that's all I needed to know. All right, have a good one. And they move on to the next news. Just news is everywhere.
That's
Everyone's
happening
talking.
now.
Yeah,
That's
it's happening
totally
now.
happening. Yeah, because I feel, I shouldn't feel guilty, but I also see what you're saying, right? Where like someone, for example, in Philadelphia writes a whatever 1-page article on a contract extension, for example, on a
Mhm.
player, whereas myself gets the same news release that they do via email from the Philadelphia Union, and I post my tweet. And why would anybody go to the
Yep.
website if they can just read it at a glance, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like, there has to be a better way for them, because I really do think that they add something, and that's where I hope that there's a better relationship between traditional media and the new media that's coming in. That's where you, myself, and other
Yeah.
creators are landing in, to have a, a healthy relationship per
Yeah.
se. Where right now it feels like it's kind of like this, and that's so unfortunate.
Yeah. It is. You mentioned a good point, and like to finish on that topic, that I think people don't know or they're not aware that like the club just sends an email out to these people that are on this list. And trust me, it can be very easy to get on that list. And that's it. You get on the list, you get the email. Everyone gets the same news at the exact same time for the most part. And then we all get to choose what we want to do with it. Some people write great essays and break down the situation, what happened, blah blah. Some people will just go on TikTok and be like, "Did you guys know that this player is retired or whatever, whatever the news is, and people are just going to choose. There's going to be people younger than me that maybe don't want to read an article and they just want to watch a TikTok. Or there's people my age or older that are like, no, I don't want to watch a TikTok. I want to read it. Like I want to. I'm at work right now. I can't watch TikTok all day. Let me pull up this article and read what's going on with my favorite team. So yeah, I agree. It's gonna be very weird. These upcoming years with how the clubs and then the league manage this like back and forth, but hopefully it's not like a straight up like war between like the big guys and the little ones.
Yeah, and like I'm always intrigued because I, having gone to college and done some graduate work as well, I'm always intrigued about like the writing level that people put out. And as a news reader myself, I don't want to be reading a college essay when I'm reading about sports, right? I think
Yeah.
that there's room for that. But thinking about some writers here in the Philadelphia space, I ran their articles through, whatever the tool's called to tell me what level of writing this is or reading. Just like, oh yeah, it's like a level 100 college paper. It's like, no, 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 no. I didn't sign up for that, right? I
Right.
just want you to
Yeah.
give me this, that, then done, or who, what, how, etc. I,
Exactly.
I don't need to be buying those annoying college textbooks again to be reading,
Right.
those articles. Like, and I hate to say dumb it down, but like the audience is not
Yeah.
really matching up to what you're doing. So that
Yes, in
to me is
sports, I agree. Sports is maybe not the vibe for that. I honestly think a lot of us respectfully are just a quick let me see and move on type of people, gotta go. And all like you and like me and so many other people, we're all like we have multiple things going on. We don't have time to do that. So yeah, it's like a place and time. But the minute, maybe clubs or the league or whatever favors one over the other, then we're gonna have a problem. We need to be homies. I don't know what really went down with the uh what's it called, that the organization that like everybody was under, all these writers were
oh
under.
yeah. I submitted my stuff because I was suggested to submit it by a couple of people who are far too kind, helped me sort of get started. And
Yeah.
they appreciated my ability of able to like be bilingual and be able to communicate with Spanish players. They're like, dude, you are very talented.
Yeah.
You should be involved with this. It'll get you access to a lot. Haven't heard back. And my understanding is that they review that like twice a year in
Yeah,
terms of like who gets in. That's bananas.
that's
Like this
nuts.
is
Yeah,
this is expanding so
that's
so
what has to
fast.
change. Yes, I agree. It's nuts, but I guess we'll just kind of like see and just be nice to each other.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the whole Messi thing. I still remember, having to I remember applying for the Leagues Cup Messi game.
Mhm.
And or I'm sorry, let me back up. Pre-Messi, pre-Leagues Cup, applying to the Miami game, got in. No issue whatsoever. Maybe one or two open seats in the press box in Philadelphia, which if you ever come, let me know. I'll make sure
Yeah.
that you get taken care of
Heck
and
yeah.
sit with us. Um, but fast forward to Leagues Cup and not getting an email about my accreditation, despite honestly being able to apply to any game and hearing like, 3 days in advance or 2 days in advance.
Mhm.
Nonetheless, I'm actually very proud. Myself and Mike Barrera, who I do a podcast with, both got in, which is my understanding
Nice.
pretty hard for a Messi
Yeah.
game. But nonetheless, seeing folks who maybe didn't get accredited for, whatever, writing, trying to sneak, taking the
Yeah.
route of like, I'm a photographer today with like, a tiny little Nikon that you can
Right.
go and buy at Walmart type of thing. So it was
Yeah.
interesting.
That's what
Um,
needs cleaned up for sure. Like I think that is a huge problem for sure.
so as we wrap up, I think I want to ask you this last question and just kind of say goodbye then at the end. We I think we're in agreement here that this league's also both very young but very antiquated in the way that it treats certain types of media, especially this new stuff that feels a little maybe uncomfortable for the league.
Yeah.
With the growth of this league, though smaller compared to other leagues in the US, NBA, NHL, NFL, etc., how crucial do you believe it is for independent creators like yourself to contribute to expanding the league's presence? Like,
Yeah.
in your dream world, how do you foresee or how would you want the MLS to treat folks like yourself?
I think the I think it's massive based off of like the actual culture of the country. Like in South America, I would not say nobody needs a bunch of me's. Honestly, it's cool, it's fun.
No, they
Like
don't.
but they don't need it. It's done. Like they've hundreds of years of this stuff going on. They're fine. But because like these are new generations of people like starting to watch this sport or finally understanding how it works and all this stuff. You need people to so many maybe make it simpler to understand things down or poke fun at things or whatever. That's going to be so huge because I'm not trying to interest the 60-year-old old soccer heads that are still talking about the 1930 World Cup. I don't know, like that stuff is cool, like interesting, awesome. But I'm interested in like the younger people, the people that are like middle-aged people that are just now getting into it. That a great thing, and I have to say something positive about St. Louis, but they have like grown ass men and women that have never watched soccer. I've met
Yep.
many of them, and they're like, "Oh, I'm obsessed." Or someone recently said like, "I just started watching the Premier League." It's crazy over here. It's like unreal to me. Like people are just discovering these things that have been around for so long, and they're so big and so important for so many people. Uh, the dream for me is I don't think MLS really has to like push these people up. We don't need to be like the esports and like, oh, Kevin's the sporting guy and Jose is the Philly guy or whatever. But I do think it'll be huge to see kind of like what they did with some big creators like Noah Beck. They just had him like goofing off in their headquarters.
Yeah,
That's
I'm so
awesome.
done with that commercial. Yeah, no.
I am too. I am too. To be fair, they need us. That's why they need more people. Okay, but yeah, that type of stuff is so fun and just fresh. If you remember, like the ESPN ads and like had some of the funniest ads with some
The Office ones.
the Office ones. Yes, they're
Yes.
so they could do stuff like that, and it doesn't always have to be players. Stuff like that is going to be huge. So even if it's like a soft support, MLS, you know, I sometimes it's very simple. If they just reach out like some people did with me, that you'll make a fan for life, and you'll have people defending the league for life. They will go, "Hey, you're great. Keep it up." Even though they've seen it all, they've seen the good and the bad and the ugly, but they're just like, "Listen, we love what you're doing." I think some teams, like we talked about earlier, already are there, or they're starting to understand that faster than the others. There are some leagues and teams that need it. Like the NWSL just needs that. They just need people talking about the
Right.
NWSL. So that's why like it makes sense that the current were really cool with me and they went fast. But I think MLS is not outside of that. I think MLS needs that so bad. And now, yeah, Messi, we're gonna have more eyes for Messi for these year or what? Oh God, how long is he here? Another couple years, and then we move on to whoever else is coming or whatever. But we just need people to understand how it works. The coolest thing to like finish off is when people didn't understand this format. If there was no one really, if we just went off of the MLS media communications tweet and that was it, you
Dude, that
know,
was awful.
oh my God, that was I just could not believe what I was looking at. I'm like, okay, this is going to be very confusing for a lot of people. So then you saw so many creators break down what the heck was going on or what they feel about or what they think of it. That's going to be huge to keep that going, have people do that. The biggest thing is just clubs. I think the league is getting it. I think the clubs are just the ones that need to really just embrace it or just not be shy to kind of interact with some of these people. There's some great podcasts out there that like they should be invited to games. Like it would just that simple little we're inviting you and your whole crew to this game because we love your work. Do you understand? These people will kill each other. All right. They will
Yeah.
love they will straight up tattoo the club's logo on them. That type of thing is going to be huge. So prayers for that. I don't know if I'm going to be here, but I'll be maybe from afar. I'll be watching and vibing, seeing how they interact with creators or whatever, and hopefully it's good. I just hope it's not like the same old next season and the next couple of years.
Well, in two ways, this league is so serious in terms of
Yeah.
how it treats certain things, but then so unserious in the way it treats a lot of things like
Yes, for
content
sure.
creators, even its own playoff format that has changed 3 times in 3 years, I think, or however many
Yeah, something like
times. And
that.
it just
Yeah.
it's mind boggling. And I think where we can sort of end at and again remind everybody is that we're fans, and yes, I put my journalist hat on when I have to, but ultimately at the end of the day, I am there.
Yeah.
I more often than not choose not to sit in the press box. I go and sit. I still hold my 2 season tickets despite getting into the games for free. The
Right.
parking's nice, which is awesome, but I will forever have my 2 season tickets. I'm with the fans most of the time. So not to forget that we love this league as much as the next person, but man, it has a lot of growth to go through. And
For
to its
sure.
credit, it's still very, very young. And
Yeah.
we'll see what happens within the next few years. And I I think in terms of Philadelphia, which is obviously a younger team than Kansas City,
Hmm.
almost feels like this team itself is on, version 4.0, maybe 5.0 with
Yeah.
where we are. And I think the league as a whole, you can break it down to pre becoming, the MLS that we know now, the MLS that we know now, David Beckham,
Right.
and now you throw in Messi. It's interesting. So I'm intrigued to see what happens and the changes as more teams come on board and
Yeah.
maybe some shift around, etc. But I think we're all here for it. And Kevin, I hope that you're involved in some way, shape, or form. I know that the work that you do and the content that you put out is very taxing. And some people will scoff at that and think, well, he only looks at a screen and talks about it. But the work that goes behind the production, as people can see behind you, never mind the editing and the toll it takes in your relationship with your wife, as well as
Yeah.
you mentally and physically, it's a lot of work. So I just want to thank you for a lot of people who watch your content, whether it's live or on highlights. I want to make sure that we say thank you to you. But on a personal note, thank you for jumping on for however long it's been. While we
Of
were
course.
talking, I think the whatever notification you got, it was
Yeah.
me pumping $15 to Zoom so
Oh,
it
you
wouldn't
did?
shut down. Just for the
They got
conversation,
you.
because I'm having a great time. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that it wasn't ending prematurely. But for now, man, I hope that we're able to talk again soon.
Yes.
Maybe Philadelphia and Kansas City somehow meet each other.
Final, baby. That's what it
Maybe.
is. We heard it
And
here first.
if it is in Philadelphia, Kevin, you're more than
I'm
welcome.
out.
I live in a suburb. You can
Okay.
come and stay with me.
Heck
No
yeah.
issues whatsoever. Save you some money there. But ultimately, next
Thank you.
season, I hope that you're involved in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know if you know anything, and I'm not
Mm.
here to break news, but I saw that TST is getting ready to announce something tomorrow. So I'm really excited because that was very exciting to watch. I thought that was
Yeah.
honestly the I actually had more fun watching that than the U.S. Open Cup this year.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I mean, being there, just if I think I've said that, and everyone has said this, there are ex World Cup winners, ex, legends, and they're like, this is the most fun I had since I was a child.
That's
It
awesome.
was like the sport like entered their lives, and some of these players were like acting like 13-year-old boys. They were just like giddy and excited and like, oh my god, oh this team, are you watching this team? It was unreal to see how people reacted, and it's just gonna go. This season is gonna be even more insane. Or season, this tournament is gonna be even
Yeah.
more insane. But yeah, I agree with you. I think for me, even while being there, even friends that were watching were like, dude, that was so fun. I'm like, I know. If only like some people can. The thing was, I will say, sorry. The one thing that does not, because a lot of people are like, see, MLS does need to change. They need to get goofy, and that it's like, no, no, no. This is not why that was so fun. I mean, that is a part of it for sure. But it was also like the mix of seeing like people you've never heard of ball out like crazy. Some of these futsal guys, all
Yeah.
listen, I would die out there. Okay, ankles just broken. Then you see like legends in the men's and women's game walking around and just hanging out and doing interviews and just having fun, and then getting on the field and you're getting like weird. You have like Ocho Cinco is walking
I,
around.
that's
What?
and you're
Like,
absolutely right. Like I never thought that I would see on the same screen Jimmy Conrad giving Ocho Cinco
yeah,
a hug and then going to face against them, or seeing
yeah,
Wrexham legends playing
yes,
against like some of the Dwayne De Rosario. Like
yeah,
it
for
was like
sure.
it was honestly like seven different
Jarring.
universes just like crashing. It's
Yes.
just like my
And
mind couldn't like put it together.
there's I don't believe this is a secret, but there's some like really big teams that are or at least shown their interest in this upcoming season. Or I keep saying season, this upcoming tournament, and it's like I at first I think it was the idea of this tournament was just like some amateurs, some old pros. Let's get like this crazy $1 million reward, and we just battle it out. Let's see what happens. And they've done this in the basketball version. But I don't think they even realize, like, oh snap, now like Real Madrid and Manchester United, all these people are like, that was kind of a fun tournament. Maybe we send some of our little kiddos over there or whatever. So I don't think anyone like expected it. So this upcoming tournament is going to be nuts. Trust me, okay? Trust me, it's gonna be fun. So like, if people can make it out to North Carolina, I recommend it for
I
sure.
I'm planning. I'm hopefully planning on it.
Yeah.
My family. This was all at Wake Forest, right?
Yes.
Okay. My
No, wait.
family lives.
Yeah, wait.
Oh,
Wake Forest. Hold on. It's the no. Is it Wake Forest? It's where the Courage play.
I'm not sure where the Courage play.
It's yeah,
For some
wherever that
reason, I
is.
was under the impression that it was close to Wake Forest. My family lives near, or some of my family, I should say, lives near the Raleigh area, so
Yeah, it's
not
right
too
around there.
far away.
Yeah.
So I'm eager to go check it out. Whether it's absolutely as a fan, I am not good enough to play at any level like them. So I don't even
Dude.
know why I
Oh, that's
said,
the other thing.
but
A really big missing misconception is people think they're like not being on the sideline and actually getting trucked by a man. These people are, I mean, they're fighting. I mean, verbally getting scrapping. In the parking lots, people are heated. Okay, well, they had this players
the
uh
Village,
like the village,
yeah.
and it was like, okay, let's not walk over here because freaking Cesc Fabregas's team is they're
That,
pissed right now. They just got a bad call. You know what I mean? It's
even that
nuts.
name dropping in the middle
Yeah.
of this tournament is just like
Cesc
you're telling.
Fabregas in Raleigh, North Carolina is the funniest thing ever, dude. Like,
Yeah,
I love it. It's so awesome.
that man should be just lounging in Spain somewhere, resting his
Yeah.
feet up after his time across Europe. So like, yeah, again,
Yeah.
to think that that's a name that's involved with this is amazing. So
Yeah.
everybody should keep attention or pay attention. I
For
think by the
sure.
time this goes live, I think the announcement would have already come out. So I apologize, but
Yeah.
keep an eye on TST. I think that's going to be something really exciting, and I wouldn't be surprised. Was it who broadcasted it last year? Was it CBS?
Um,
Or
Hold on.
YouTube. It was on
So they
YouTube.
did YouTube, and then at the I think the final of the semifinals, they moved over to CBS or something,
Okay. I
NBC.
wouldn't be surprised. And I think CBS is going all out on soccer, which is awesome. I
Yes.
wouldn't be surprised if CBS dips and say, we're gonna put this all behind Paramount Plus. But I hope, as
Yeah.
someone who an maybe an idiot, whatever. I pay
Yeah.
for YouTube, so I don't
Yeah.
have ads, whatever. I hope that they don't forget that was probably a huge reason why that whole thing was as popular as it was,
Oh
the
yeah.
accessibility of it all. So
Thinking of content creators, it was easy to pull footage. It was so easy to react to or highlight. I mean, literally, we had ads. People are like, all right, I'm gonna steal this clip of Jimmy, nutmegging this guy. Go steal it. Go. It would be. It's harder with like you got to go through CBS. You got to pull the footage. You have to put in a request, all that stuff. And it's so quick. And the other thing is this tournament is like 4 days long, so it's just like bang, 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 bang every day, multiple games a day, all this stuff that it's very hard to rely on like a big corporate company to give you stuff. So yeah, I think it
uh,
was huge.
can you confirm Conrad Beasley coming back?
I I cannot confirm anything at all, Jose, but I will say,
But
but
you're
I
not
will say,
denying it.
I am not denying it either. All right, but I will say, Jimmy, okay, and TST have been, they've been interacting. Just look at the socials. All right, just look at the socials. But I think also, just to be absolutely clear, how this works, if anyone knows, is you have to put in a certain amount, like a straight up buy-in for the tournament, right? What makes sense is where the money, a lot of it is coming from. And they raised that, which the reason why makes sense because of how successful it was. They just kind of thought, why don't we bump it up times two? So it's double the price to get in, which is kind of the scary thing, I think, for people like Jimmy or people that are just coming up with their own teams. They're getting their own sponsors, and then you have like Dortmund and Wrexham comes in and
Yeah.
United or whatever, whoever wants to come in, and that's going to make things difficult for those like random futsal teams from Brazil to travel up and whatnot. So I think there's a lot of things that they're trying to work out, and hopefully I'm not going to watch a TST tournament with like freaking 32 top level clubs sending their kids. I don't think that's gonna happen, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll just wait for tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll keep an eye on it and certainly hope to see you at TST
Yes.
at whatever capacity. Hopefully that's
Oh yeah.
something
I
you're
think
still
either
involved.
way, I'm going. I don't care. I'm out there. It was a great time.
That's awesome. But Kevin, again, thank you so much for your time, man. This was I think insightful. I think people will enjoy this.
It was fun.
And please make sure to, and I'll have you drop your handles in a second, but make sure you follow Kevin and follow his content as the MLS season wraps up. Hopefully, which is hard to believe. I'm guessing you're going to be reacting to the game
Yeah.
after Thanksgiving, which is again bonkers that we're talking about a tournament that started Halloween or before Halloween and
It
will
never
end December
ends,
9th.
dude. Why is it never ending?
Make sure you follow Kevin. Make sure you watch his streams coming up. Hopefully, there is a crash course collision here between Philadelphia and Kansas City on December 9th. But we still have like another season to go, it
We got
feels
a month
like,
away.
until then. But Kevin, where can people follow you? When can people enjoy your content?
I think everything at this moment, as we're speaking, everything like Instagram, TikTok, and I think Twitter is all Kevincho TV. I'm working on this idea of like maybe co-streaming on Twitch and YouTube, but for the moment, Kevincho TV on YouTube. But no, seriously, I had a lot of fun. I love doing these, especially with people that know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about here. It's a little easier.
Not the St. Louis mom who just
No,
became a fan.
right. Yeah, exactly. Not the St. Louis moms out there. But yeah, it was fun. I cannot wait to see this. I can't wait to share it. And yeah, if Philly, I need to go to Philly because Philly fans have been so nice to me last season and this season. If you guys could just make it into a final, I would hang out. And you just said something that I will remember. Okay, if I need to go out there, I know who to hit up for some boarding. You know what I mean? Some room and boarding. So
You're more than welcome to be in the suburbs of Philadelphia
let's
and a
go.
very nice basement with a good setup. So more than
Heck
happy to
yeah!
take care of you, man. So
Thank you.
for now, Kevin, thank you so much. Be safe and enjoy creating the last bit of content here as the year winds out. But everybody, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch up later.